Well, hello. Welcome to the Manchester Evening News, Gorton and Denton hustings. I'm Sarah Lester, I'm the editor of the MEN. So the eyes of the country are on what might happen in this seat. The result could go in any direction, despite what some of the leaflets are saying. I am delighted we've got with us the following candidates. We've got Charlotte Cadden from the Conservative Party. We've got Matt Goodwin from Reform UK. We've got Jackie Pearcey from the Lib Dems. We've got Hannah Spencer from the Green Party. And we've got Angeliki Stogia from the Labour Party, in that order. They're seated in alphabetical order, going that way, surnames. Now, a disgruntled former employee of the Manchester Evening News, who was a chap called George Orwell, and wonder what happened to him, he once said, political language has to consist largely of euphemism, question begging, and sheer cloudy vagueness. With that in mind, I'm going to go through some ground rules before we get underway. So each candidate will get 1 minute to make an opening statement. They'll also have a chance to make a closing statement for 1 minute at the end. When we get to questions, I'll say a name from the audience and that person will read it out. If the people on the tram haven't got here in time, I'll read out their question. Each candidate will get around 60 seconds to answer the question, but try and keep it tight. I've got many more questions than we're going to be able to answer here. Exec editor Todd, who is there, Todd Fitzgerald, will raise his hand when there's 10 seconds to go. We'll see how that works, but keep your eye on him. If in answering a question, an allegation is made against another candidate, I will briefly come to you for a response, but I hope we can try and avoid that. I would really appeal both to candidates and to the audience to make this really respectful. Come in, welcome. Seats. I'd appeal just to keep it really respectful. It's important that all the different perspectives here are heard, both in the room and the many thousands who will watch this afterwards online as we are filming it. Please allow people to say their piece and avoid any heckling. We want to get through as many questions as possible, have a lively exchange of views. So if we don't get to your question, audience, don't worry. We're going to put them to the candidates afterwards and we will publish all the results. So let's start with the opening statements in alphabetical order by surname. Charlotte.
Thank you. I've been a police officer for 30 years, so I know what it means to tackle antisocial behaviour and cut down on crime. I work with the police to deal with the kids on bikes who are masked up terrorising the streets, and I'll get the statutory inquiry for victims of the grooming gangs that have preyed on young girls. And I will press the police to focus resources on what matters to the public. I'll get a new high school in Denton so parents have a choice and kids have a really good start in life. And I'll secure a regular rail service from Denton Station to cut traffic on the M60 and improve young people's chances of getting jobs. I'll stand up against Labour's crippling jobs tax and fight for lower business rates to back our small shops, cafes and pubs. But essentially this election is a choice. It's a choice between someone with a record of public service in the police and a plan for Gorton and Denton, or someone shouting from the sidelines playing national politics.
Thank you. Matt.
Well, I want to put the people of Gorton and Denton where they belong, which is first. I think Gorton and Denton has been ignored, has been left behind for decades under the Labour Party, and has even been treated with contempt through the Trigger Me Timbers WhatsApp scandal. I think it is unacceptable how mainstream establishment politicians have talked about the people of Gorton and Denton, and I want to put them first. I want to be a loud, strong champion for the people of Gorton and Denton in Westminster, and only Reform UK can do that. We are the only party that can defeat Keir Starmer and Labour at this by-election and put the people of Gorton and Denton first, which means sticking up for small, medium, family-run businesses, having a zero-tolerance approach to antisocial behaviour and crime, slashing immigration, and putting the hard-working majority first, which is where they belong.
Thank you. Jackie.
Well, my name's Jackie Pearcey, and I actually recognise quite a lot of the faces in this room because I've actually lived in Gorton since the mid-1980s. In fact, I've actually lived there long enough that I'm one of the fortunate people who's managed to come to the end of my mortgage. Now, it became my home because I love this diverse community. The people of Gorton, and alongside Levenshulme and Burnage and Denton, I helped fight the Kingswater Park campaign with people right across Denton as well as Gorton to stop them concreting everything between the Debdale reservoirs and the Gorton reservoirs. I had the honour of being a councillor for 21 years in this constituency, where I did develop a reputation for working with many community groups and helping a lot of people. This is my home. This is about the best MP for Gorton and Denton. I love this area. It's an area I've chosen to be in, and I really want to represent it in Westminster.
Thank you. Hannah?
Thank you. I'm Hannah Spencer. I'm just going to be really honest and say this election is a straight-up race between me, a hard-working local Mancunian who's lived here all her life, and the Reform candidate who's an academic busting from the south, spreading that party's message of division. Labour have absolutely blown it. They are not in this race. They've let too many people down for too long, and now they're wrapped up in scandal after scandal. We've had enough of Labour, but what Reform are offering is even worse. They want to sell us the pack of lies that deporting 1 million of our friends and neighbours in this place while charging us to go to the GP will make things better. You spent so long, Matt, I think, researching far-right extremism that you did get a little bit confused and thought what you were reading was an instruction manual. But this city is in my bones. I've lived here all my life. I've seen the struggles. I've felt what it's like to be pushed out. I've done my big shop in Asda more times than I can remember in Longsight. My greyhounds have walked every street in Levenshulme, and that is why I've decided to stand up for our city, first as a councillor, then as a mayoral candidate, and hopefully as your next Green MP. Thank you.
Angeliki?
Wow, things are hotting up. I'm gonna cool things down a bit with a poem that was written about Manchester. Some people are born here. Some people are drawn here, but we all call it home. I came to Manchester 30 years ago. I made it my city. I found a city here that didn't ask where I was from, a city that asked me, how can I contribute? A proud, diverse and straight-talking city that looks after their own. And this is how I knew that I found my home. My mum was a nursery teacher. My dad was a trade unionist. And he taught me that you're not going to stand on the sidelines. You got to roll your sleeves up and actually get things done here. And that's what I'm all about. That's what I've done in regeneration projects, creating jobs. That's what I've done in the voluntary and community sector, supporting communities as a councillor, and also turning residents' voices into action. This election is going to be delivered about
Time. Okay. Right, we'll get on with the questions. So we're going to start with an excellent question from Dejanae Grant, who is voting for the first time in this election and is a student at Connell College. You, Dejanae. Right.
So do you think that it is realistically possible to achieve the policies for the party that you represent?
Start with Matt.
Well, firstly, thank you for voting. It's a very important act. Yes, I do think it's realistic to bring about the policies that Reform UK want to implement. What we have, and what we have had under a succession of Tory governments and Labour governments, is an economic model that is not working for Gorton and Denton. Just look around. Small businesses getting clobbered by high taxes, national insurance tax increases, regulation. Even Angela Rayner today criticising her own party because of how it is dismantling local pubs in places like this. And I've talked to those pub owners, but we've also had policies that have divided communities like Gorton and Denton. I have been criticised by other candidates for being, in their words, divisive. I can think of nothing more divisive than treating the people of Gorton and Denton like the Labour Party has treated them over the last few years, insulting and mocking and laughing at local people.
Jackie.
Yes. Well, one of the things about the Liberal Democrats is that we do have a lot of policies, but they are actually costed. We are going to invest more in the NHS, and on our website there's information about how it's going to be done, because health and social care is a very big issue. I recently had to deal with my elderly parents in their last years. In fact, my father only died in October. And navigating the maze of health and social care to make sure that he could die in dignity and not in pain, it was hard for me, and it must be hard for a lot of other people. It's a desperate need to get something done. We also need to bring back jobs to Gorton and make sure that education and training ensures that local people get the jobs. I don't want the jobs that are people driving from outside of the area to get there. We actually need the jobs that local people are being trained to do. Gorton and Denton deserve better.
Thank you. Hannah.
Thank you so much for your question. And I'm really pleased that this will be the first time that you're voting, because we know that if you vote in your first election, you're more likely to carry on voting throughout the rest of your life. And there is a really worrying trend, I think, in democracy of young people who feel excluded from the system. I know I felt like that for a really long time. I know the biggest impact we as Greens have as MPs currently is holding other politicians to account. Having a Green in the room that questions other people and makes them think about their decisions makes a big difference. I see that in my role as a councillor, and since taking on role as group leader, I've seen firsthand the impact that we can have in a room where decisions are being made, where we can challenge people and hold them to account and scrutinise the decisions that are being made. Because here in Greater Manchester for too long, it has been mostly Labour-led, with the Labour mayor and Labour MPs who have to just do what their leaders tell them. Us as Greens are totally different. We listen to our residents. We're the only party that isn't whipped to make decisions. We make our policy with our members, so our members decide everything that comes through. And as we've grown hugely in the last... Yeah.
Angeliki.
This is an absolutely brilliant question, and I think that after 14 years of austerity, Labour has started making an impact right here in our communities. So if you look at the two-child limit that we scrapped just last week, this is going to lift 6,000 people. 6,000 children out of poverty right here. The NHS lists are coming down. We've set up GB Energy. We're going to be delivering a lot of projects to reduce our impact on climate. In terms of transport, we have frozen prices on rail, and we are making an impact working together here, also in Greater Manchester with the mayor. And also, we've created the border force, and we're sorting out our immigration system and asylum system. So the impact is there. We want that we know that people want us to go faster and harder. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything is solved, but we are having a really good go at it.
Thank you. Charlotte.
Thank you. Great question. I would say, yes, the Conservative plan is a great plan. If you've read what Kemi's put into this plan that we're signed up to, this is about delivering stronger economy and stronger borders. And I think I've been in, been in Gorton and Denton over the past sort of 10 days since I was brought into this. But I too have almost been a victim of crime on the streets, and I think the plan to bring in 10,000 more police officers is a really important one to keep young people safe. There are gangs of teenage lads that looks like balaclavas on, driving around on maybe stolen bikes, and lots of people have mentioned this issue. I think reducing crime and antisocial behaviour is something that's really important. It's definitely deliverable. I've done it personally in the police over 30 years. And I think the policies that back that up in the Conservative Party manifesto are definitely deliverable. In addition to that, Kemi has committed us to coming out of the European Court of Human Rights.
Thank you. Next question is Tameside GP, Dr. Walid Kapoor.
Hi, so my question is regarding the 10-year plan. So in this area, we have some of the worst health outcomes in Greater Manchester, some of the longest waiting lists, some of the highest use of A&E and out of hours, and we often hear about the 10-year plan talking about a left shift, and my concern is we often end up talking about people that have already developed a problem and how we can now stop them staying in hospital and staying in the community, and that affects palliative care, it affects other things. My question isn't about the people that have necessarily already developed a problem and now need to not be kept in hospital, as most parties talk about them. My question is, what are we going to do to prevent the issues that we know we could be preventing, as I don't see enough prevention happening in primary care?
Thank you. Let's start with Jackie.
Thank you. Yes, well, I know how long it takes to get a medical appointment in the area because I'm registered with the local GP. There's several issues that cause the health outcomes in both Gorton and Denton. A few years back, I put a particulate sensor outside my house. Fortunately, it went in a heat wave, but the amount of particulate, even in my quiet little cul-de-sac, but it's off Hyde Road, a good few hundred yards away from Hyde Road, was in the danger zone every single day. That is affecting health of people in this area, as is poverty. Poverty is the big thing that really makes the difference. And we need to be lifting people out of poverty. And that doesn't mean just making people work 35 hours a week and then have to supplement on benefits to be able to live. We need to rebalance the whole economy so that people aren't in poverty. And that's the biggest way to deal with it. Also, the fact that we've got a whole load of doctors we train every year and then don't find them jobs. We should use them.
Thank you. Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question and for all the work that you're doing. I think it signals a bit of a lack of trust, really, I think, in the system that has come from years of underinvestment in the NHS. And I think the staff within it are working so hard to try and rebuild that trust, but without proper investment, I don't see how things really are going to improve. I'm really proud that the Green Party is really clear on bringing things in like a wealth tax, a tax on the super, super rich, so that we can start investing in our services again. But I think as much as that, it's about getting into some of the communities that we know have been left behind, have been ignored by politicians, and haven't been able to sort of feed into the system. And that's where I know I'm demonstrating. I'm already out in the community speaking to groups that are less represented, maybe more marginalised, and trying to find out what barriers there are for them to come in and access NHS services.
Okay, thank you. Angeliki?
Thank you. This is a really good question. And in terms of adult health and social care, Manchester has taken this forward through the devolution deal, because we saw that there is a problem, and we went to the Conservative government and we actually did something about it. And this is how we work here. The Gorton and Denton constituency is a very diverse constituency with diverse communities and very, very diverse needs. And we need people like you on board to help us to come up with these solutions on how we work better in our communities and how we deliver faster results and turn people's lives around. In terms of NHS, I think we need more investment in the NHS. We need to have the right skills in the NHS and the right people. But Labour is the party of the NHS. And if I become your MP, I will be working together with you in order to bring about positive outcomes, health outcomes for our communities.
Thank you. Charlotte?
I would say it's about early diagnosis, and I think the sooner people can get to see a GP and then get that appointment, I think that's really important. But I think we'll all know people in this room, all know people that have had appointments cancelled, whether that's during, treatment plans because of strike action by doctors. The Conservatives have got a policy that is about preventing strikes, preventing doctors striking. And consultant striking. That's the same in other public sectors, for example, policing. We're not allowed to strike. We weren't allowed to strike. So I think making sure that there's minimum service levels that have to be adhered to in terms of patients, particularly when they've got urgent appointments for cancer treatment, things like that, those appointments should not be cancelled because medical staff go on strike.
Thank you. Matt?
Well, I'll tell you what it's not about, which is what the Greens want to do, which is legalising all drugs, including crack cocaine and heroin. Now, if you're in Gorton and Denton, where I was last night, in Denton actually, speaking to a pensioner, a lady maybe in her mid-70s, real health issues, comes out of her front door, street lights aren't working, I can already smell drugs in the area and there's gangs of kids at the end of the road. What would legalising drugs do to an area like Gorton and Denton and the health outcomes? My whole family work for the NHS in Manchester. There's already been misinformation on this panel about my family history. My father led the Greater Manchester Health Authority. My mother worked for the NHS in Manchester. I know how important the NHS is. I wouldn't be in a party that wasn't committed to supporting the NHS. What we need to do is make better choices. The money we are spending elsewhere needs to go on frontline service delivery in the NHS. And you're right, primary care. For example, why are we spending £13 billion on foreign aid? That, while we are treating British people in NHS corridors and hospitals, how is that acceptable? That money should go into the NHS.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next question. Jeremy Hode, who runs a book and record shop, and I believe is also known as Mr. Levenshoe, and has a question about a Levenshoe development.
I wouldn't lay claim to that title. Well, the first thing to say is thank you for organising the hustings, and a shout out. There are a couple of candidates here who haven't responded to our invitation to the Levenshoe hustings tonight, so you're more than welcome to come along. The question is, there are plans for a big housing development at the Secret Lakes on the border of Levenshoe and Reddish. If approved, this would essentially destroy a loved and well-used community asset which provides unique environmental benefit and is a site of biological interest. This is a poor proposal in the wrong place. Will you stand with our community and oppose the development as Stockport MP Nav Mishra and former Gorton and Denton MP Andrew Gwynne did?
Hannah?
Thank you for the question, and I will see you at tonight's hustings. And yeah, that place means a lot to me. I live nearby. I had a few really challenging years when I lived there, and it was a place of real sanctuary in amongst, quite a busy environment, and those places need protecting. We have seen across Greater Manchester, Labour's plan Places for Everyone. I don't know if anyone's really familiar with it, but we've had it at local level, and it's just torn communities apart, and it's an example of an administration not listening to the needs of residents and prioritising property developers over the needs of communities. I'm really proud, again, in the Green Party, our housing policy is that we have the right homes in the right places. We look at developing brownfield sites before we look at doing anything to our much loved community places, and I will fight for you as your Green MP alongside you to say that these places need to be left alone.
Angeliki.
Thank you. This is exactly what shouting from the sidelines is about. Greater Manchester has come together. The 10 boroughs of Greater Manchester did come together to discuss the issue of how do we build homes, how do we build affordable homes for everyone in Manchester, because we know that there is a pressing need. And the real thing about politics is that you have to sit down and take this decision. So we came together and we saw, and this is how the plan came together. In terms of what you asked, Jeremy, I am not aware of that, and I did ask a few people around because I received it as casework. So the way that I would approach it is that I would sit with you to understand what is the development about, what are the concerns of the residents, what is the likely impact, and how can we work together to create a win-win situation for everyone, because there is a pressing need about housing, but I also am very passionate about climate change and protecting the natural environment.
Thank you, Charlotte.
I've done similar work on something where I live at the minute, and we were successful in fighting building on land that is very similar to that. It was an SBI, which I hadn't heard of before I went into that environment, site of specific biological importance. Yeah, totally on your side on that. I would meet with residents, look at how we could put objections in, look at the best way to tackle the issues. Is it about the wildlife that's there? Or is it about, the veteran trees, things like that, things of that nature? And if we needed to crowdfund to get access to legal support, we'd do that, which was very successful in the case that I was involved in locally. So yeah, I think we do need more houses. They need to be built on brownfield sites, but definitely not on sites like you've described.
Matt.
Mr. Levenshulme, I'll be there this evening, so thank you for organising that. If there's community support for that, then of course it's the job of the MP to represent that. And that would be my approach. But what I've noticed, canvassing every day, 3 times a day, is around this constituency as a whole, there are lots of similar concerns and issues that people have raised that have just been completely ignored by Labour. That issue is one. I'll give you another one. Houses that collapsed into a sinkhole. Nothing's been done for 5 years. What has Labour been doing in this seat? We've had, not only that, we've got the market in Denton. People are saying, where's the market gone? What's happened? Where's the community gone? Look at the high streets full of vape shops and barber shops because Labour has hammered small businesses with high taxes, national insurance tax rises and excessive regulation. And then I hear Labour politicians saying, I'm a divisive figure apparently, for saying I want to put Gorton and Denton first and ensure people are not feeling what they're feeling in Gorton and Denton, which is neglected relative to other parts of Greater Manchester.
Well, I'm the one on the panel who, back in the 1990s, actually planted some of those trees in Levenshulme Community Forest. It's pretty hard ground to dig, but we did it. And we put those trees there, and I think some of them are still alive now. So yes, I helped plant it, and I certainly don't want it to be concreted over. But the thing is that we're living in an inner city. The Gorton half is counted as inner city, but Denton is also pretty close to inner city. Those green open spaces are our lungs, they're our lifelines. I've been part of the campaign to stop the area between the Debdale reservoirs and the Audenshaw reservoirs from being turned into an industrial estate. That was the Kingswater Park scheme back in the 90s. And I'm upset to see that we've lost the Mellons playing fields, slice at a time, every time. And each time they've designed the next phase, it looks like there's another part to come. So yes, I'm right with you. And if you want somebody to lie in front of the bulldozers alongside you, well, you go first, and I'll be next to you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're moving on to a question about immigration, but first I want to ask each candidate, just for a brief answer, on Was United owner Jim Ratcliffe right to apologise for saying that the UK had been colonised by immigrants? Just could do with brief answers. Angeliki first.
Yes, I think out of his 11 players, 8 of them at least are the people that he was talking about. So absolutely, yes, he was right to say he's sorry. He should apologise to everyone about his comment.
Okay, thank you. Charlotte?
Yes, he was right to apologise. It is freedom of speech. He gave that opinion. Is it criminal, that opinion? No. But yeah, he's right to apologise. I don't agree with him.
Thanks. Matt?
I wouldn't have used the word colonise, but I also think we live in a free society and we should not be forcing people to apologise for expressing their views, not least after Keir Starmer recently said something similar, which is that we are living, according to the Labour Prime Minister, in an island of strangers. So I'm confused as to where Labour are on this issue. Free speech at all times.
Okay, thank you. Jackie?
Well, it made me think. I mean, those Angles and the Saxons coming over in small boats 1,400 years ago, colonising, and now you think they own the place. Look, we are a nation of immigration. Ever since the Ice Age, it's been one set of immigrants after another. And we've all integrated and got along as time goes on. And I'm proud of that. And I think that's the nation that we should be and that we should aspire to be. So he's completely wrong. And frankly, he should apologise. And also apologise to that poor sod who's been waiting for 5 matches so that he can cut his hair.
Thank you. Helen? Sorry, Hannah?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely think he was right to apologise. Don't think he should have said it in the first place. And I think anyone who's in a public position like that needs to make sure that their facts are right. And I'm glad he's apologised, but I wish that there hadn't needed to have been such pressure into doing it anyway.
Okay, thank you. With another immigration question, Shafila Grant, who is also from Connell College, and I think a first-time voter as well. Right. Yeah.
So people are fearful that America's ICE enforcement culture could influence UK immigration policy. Where do you and your party stand on this?
Charlotte?
Could you just repeat that, please?
Yes, you want to go again? It's all right.
People are fearful that America's ICE enforcement culture could influence immigration, the UK immigration policy. Where do you guys stand with this point?
Okay, Charlotte.
Where do I stand on immigration?
Well, I'll just read the question out so everybody can hear. People are fearful that America's ICE enforcement culture could influence UK immigration policy. Where do you and your party stand on this?
Okay. Illegal immigration is too high. We've got the issue with the boats, people coming over on the boats, which is dangerous for the people on the boats. And that issue has not been tackled properly by this government. We've given thousands of millions of pounds to France to try and stop that, and it hasn't worked. So the Conservative policy is that we will come out of the European Court of Human Rights so that those people who come over illegally will not be allowed to claim asylum, and they will be taken to a third country, which is happening across Europe now, taken to a third country to be processed. There will also be an increase in staff to remove people who are overstaying illegally. So that's the Conservative position.
Thank you. Matt?
I spoke to a father in Longsight recently, running a store, a Muslim guy who was saying his kids couldn't get on the housing ladder. And then I discovered that in Denton, we have at least 20 HMOs, homes for multiple occupants, that have gone to people who have entered our country illegally. How is it right and how is it fair that British families, British young people, British military veterans are not able to get on the housing ladder, but we are making homes available to people who are breaking our laws and also charging British people £15 billion over the next few years for the privilege? How is it right that companies like Serco, backed by the Labour government in these areas, is using your money? They're using your money to outbid you in your own housing market. That's not right. That's not fair. Keir Starmer talks about fairness. We want to control immigration, fix the borders, and put the hard-working majority first.
Jackie?
Well, as a Liberal Democrat, I'm absolutely appalled by what ICE is doing in America. It's horrific. People have been shot on sight. They've been locked up without any of their rights. People with valid visas and green cards are being held in what amount to concentration camps. It's an absolute abomination. And frankly, scrapping our human rights here is not going to help that in any way. And we need to absolutely be clear that what they are doing is wrong, completely wrong. No equivocation about it. Now, maybe we've talked about, somebody mentioned foreign aid earlier. Well, how about using that foreign aid to make life better in the countries people are fleeing from in such desperation that they're willing to risk their lives in the Channel. Let's actually try looking at the source and helping people where they are so that they can live decent lives without having to run through such awful risks.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I think it's really terrifying what we're about to see over here. I think certain politicians are just cozying up to Trump, thinking that we can do what they're doing. And I'm really worried for my friends and neighbours who are immigrants themselves or the children of immigrants who I know have kept our city region moving for decades and decades and decades. And it's what you look like, isn't it? It's whether or not you fit into this box of what an immigrant is, whether you're born here or not. I think you're British. And I'll say I agree that our immigration system is absolutely broken. £6 million a day I think we spend on hotels. Serco absolutely signed up under the Conservative government. But let's not forget that the people who were responsible for breaking our immigration system are now in reform.
Can I add a response to that? I think, the people who have joined reform have joined because they reject the Tory governments and how they managed immigration disastrously. The Greens are advocating open borders.
But you've
Can you
taken on
imagine
people
what
who
that
broke
would
the
do to
system.
Gorton and Denton?
Robert Jenrick.
Okay,
No,
Angeliki.
Right.
Thank you. I just want to bring this back to Gorton and Denton. Matthew, how can you be sat here with a couple of security guys following you around when this afternoon, just this morning, I was with a group of interfaith women representing our community who told me that our women in this constituency, they're scared to leave their house because of the rhetoric that you have been peddling. You know, you say that people like me that have lived here for over 30 years, this country is not ours and it belongs to us. This is not the Manchester.
Sorry,
I
I need to have a response
Can we
to that.
just, have we done time?
We need controlled
Just let the time
managed migration that supports our economy, combined with serious investment in our public services. Division is very easy, delivery is harder, and I am here to do the hard work.
Okay, I will allow Matt to reply to that.
I'm not going to be lectured to by a Labour politician from a party that consistently failed to investigate the mass rape and sexual abuse of working class kids in this country for 30 years. The reason women and girls are being sexually assaulted, largely, is because your government's running, a policy of open borders, which is putting women and girls at risk. And the reason I have security is because I have very real threats to my life in an area where people assure me everything is fine. And clearly, in some parts of this country, integration is not working as it should be. We need a responsible conversation about how this country is not working.
Just come back on that and then we're going to carry on. Okay, Angeliki.
Demonising immigrants is not going to resolve the problems that we're facing, and I'm very happy to have a discussion about the thing that you just raised, but it should not be an isolated discussion targeting a specific ethnic group.
Okay, thank you. I think we'll move on, calm things down a bit. Move on to the next question, which is a more local question. Jane Whittaker is a member of the Denton Community Facebook group and has a question. And a business person, I think, as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
You're a business?
Yeah, so Denton and Gorton is positioned for industrial and logistic growth. But many residents are worried about the increased traffic, the pressure on the services and the low wage jobs in the area. So how will you ensure that this economic development will lead to skilled, well-paid employment as well as proper infrastructure upgrades rather than just simply expanding on warehousing and HGV traffic? Thanks.
I think that's Matt, please.
What Denton needs more than anything is a very loud champion who will draw attention to those issues. And there's a lot of issues in your question around overpopulation, which are putting pressure on infrastructure, the HGV issue, which people have talked to me about, the traffic issue, and low wage jobs. But let me just say what a business owner on Market Street told me a couple of days ago. They'd love to hire more people. They'd love to hire more apprentices. They'd love to expand the family business. But as is the case in many other parts of this seat, Labour's made it 15% more expensive to hire people. They're getting absolutely battered by Labour's high taxes, national insurance tax rises. There's too much regulation. IR35 is a nightmare. The tax code is too complicated because, to be honest, we have Labour politicians, Keir Starmer, Rachel Reeves, who don't know what it actually requires to run the economy and run a business. So what we need to do is unleash the lifeblood of this economy. Small, medium, family-run businesses. Take some of the population pressure off these areas.
Thank you, Jackie.
Get back to prosperity.
Well, back in the 90s, Tameside Council had this scheme called Kingswater. And this was going to put a massive industrial estate between the two reservoirs, as I've said earlier. And it was reading the documentation, it was quite clear that they expected the management to come via the motorway from Cheshire, and they expected the jobs for local people to be the cleaners. And this is absolutely unacceptable. And it's actually very insulting for the people of both Gorton and Denton who were included in that. The fact is we need more training, more education, and a wider range of jobs. We can't all make money opening doors for each other. We actually have to start making things again and manufacturing. And there's a lot of pride in Gorton about the industrial heritage. Gorton Tank and Bayer Peacock, the people who used to work there, are very proud of the things that they built that have gone round the world. We need the whole area to be proud again of the things that we make and make sure the whole world gets to appreciate them.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you for the question. Yeah, it's one of those things where we know that Manchester is one of the fastest growing economies in the world, and yet we see very little as local people. It seems like the property developers are the ones who always do quite well, and the rest of us sort of struggle along. I think this is where we need an MP who's not told what to do by their party leaders. Or their policy, someone who will work in the interests of local people, and I'm proud that I've got a track record of doing that. But I think more broadly, when it comes to talking about the jobs that are required and the skills shortage and the jobs that we need that are often looked down on, I'm really proud now of my background. I work as a plumber. I've always done jobs where I get my hands dirty, but I know that we're not valued. We're not valued by the people who are making decisions. And one thing I promised to do as an MP is open the doors of Westminster and let more people like us into the rooms where decisions are being made, so that we can stop the elite and the establishment ruling over us.
Angeliki.
Thank you very much. I was with Andy Burnham just a couple of days ago in Denton, and we were looking at the Denton train station, the 2 trains per hour situation. And per week. Thank you. Per week. I mean, you know, who wraps their life around that? And what we were discussing is the next steps that we are going to be taking as a combined authority, working with Andy. I'm going to be pressing him that the train station is included into the B network, which will mean that this will see a lot better transports over there and tram trains, and it will belong to the B network. So this is something that will alleviate the pressure in terms of traffic. I think, you know, the key here is to include local SMEs in the delivery of the scheme, and to have a program that will see local apprenticeships and will include local businesses, so that what is built there is built by local people, has ownership from local people, and also fits local people's priorities.
Thank you. I think some of you may have seen Kemi in McDonald's this week. Maybe that's where she had her first job, and now she's the leader of the opposition. I think one of the issues we've got is that small businesses are closing at an alarming rate, and they've not been supported under this current government. The Conservatives have a plan to reduce the cost of power, for example, so that it is easier then, less burden on businesses, and also cut the business rates for small businesses on the high street. This will allow them to take on more staff. They're not currently doing that. So if you wanted to take on a young person now with the current policies of the Labour government, you're more likely to take on somebody who's got more experience, somebody who's older. Why would you take on somebody young? So I think young people are missing out on those initial jobs. The Conservatives got a plan to increase the number of apprenticeships. The Labour government wanted around 50% of young people to go to university. That's just been a bit of a disaster, really, in terms of those courses that have been offered.
Thank you. I'm going to read a question from Shamin Jan, who hasn't been able to make it. She's from Northmoor Community Centre in Lochside. I'm going to read it because she raises cost of living. Our reporters out on the door have found cost of living to be one of the big themes, so I think it's important to mention her question. Longside has some of the highest child poverty rates compared to national average. We talk about safeguarding children, but prevention often happens in trusted women's community spaces. What specific actions will you take locally to reduce child poverty and protect and fund those grassroots organisations? Jackie?
Well, yes, I mean, this is the 21st century. Nobody should be choosing between heating and eating. I mean, energy prices have to come down, and the Liberal Democrats do have plans to do it, which also include making more use of solar and wind, the stuff that we can actually do as communities and put into the grid to reduce our own bills. So there'd be a lot more of that. But the fact is that too many people are living in poverty. People shouldn't be working 40 hours a week and unable to live decently. You know, it's just not how it's working. And we do need to be looking at the imbalance between rich and poor in our community. And we do need to make sure that every child should have an equal chance. Now, one thing that I'm proud that Liberal Democrats did was bringing in free school meals in the schools, because no child should be going hungry during the school day. And giving free school meals to every child is a good start to making sure that they at least have one good meal a day.
Hannah.
Thank you for the question. So I've talked a lot recently about the high rates of what we call fuel poverty in the constituency, which is higher than average than in a lot of other places. And far too many people are having to go without heating, which in 2026 is absolutely ludicrous, especially when it affects more of our disabled communities and our vulnerable communities. It should not be a case where people cannot put the heating on because they can't afford to do so. We've seen government after government fail to have proper schemes to insulate homes. I work and see the heat loss that goes on is incredible. We've had schemes that have just been, I'd say, borderline fraudulent and not regulated, and I will be the person that says, I know because I've seen that we can do this better. But ultimately, a lot of this comes down to who we are as a party, and I'm really proud that the Green Party does not accept donations from fossil fuel companies or lobbyists who seek to keep our bills high because that's how they make money. We're independent and we answer to nobody apart from you, the residents.
Angeliki.
Thank you very much. The cost of living is a real priority. It comes up on the doorstep. It's the top issue that is coming up on the doorstep when we talk to residents. In terms of the Labour government, we have stabilised the economy, inflation, interest rates and mortgages will make mortgage costs are falling. Wages are rising from April, putting money back into people's pockets. Thousands of workers across Greater Manchester. We have rolled out breakfast clubs, saving up to £450 per family. We have rolled out 4 extra in the last week. And if I'm going to be your MP, I will be fighting for a breakfast club in every school across this constituency. We lifted the two-child limits, lifting 6,000 children out of poverty and £150 off your energy bills. I know we have got to go faster and we have got to deliver a lot more. And I will be fighting with you on that.
Thank you. It is the Conservative policy to reintroduce the two-child cap. Overall, spending on welfare is completely out of control. And because of that, the welfare that does need to go to families, like the question references, is being squeezed. We need to look at why that welfare bill is now astronomical. There are cases where you can be on welfare and take home more pay, take home more finance than somebody who's working full time with a family, and that's just not right. So that does need reforming. The Labour government said they were going to reform that. We would have backed them with that recently, but they couldn't get a number of MPs, of their own MPs, to support that. Welfare is there to support those in greatest need, but we've now got a cohort of young people who may be on welfare for the rest of their life.
Look, we're not going to do anything about the cost of living until we can actually fix our economy. We have the highest industrial electricity prices in the developed world. That is why businesses are going bust. It's why energy bills are soaring. It is partly, not exclusively, but partly because of net zero. We have the highest tax burden since 1948 in this country. We are crippling families with taxes. These are Labour's decisions. They can blame the Tories for 14 years, and I'm not a Tory. I'm the last person to defend the Tories. But these are Labour decisions. Their first instinct on coming into office was to go after pensioners, scrapping the winter fuel. Then they pushed farmers to suicide. Then they clobbered small businesses with national insurance tax rises. I'm sorry, this party is not a serious manager of the economy. What we need to do is bring down energy bills by slashing net zero. We need to bring down taxes, especially for small, medium and family-run businesses. We need to get back to growth, which would help the cost of living crisis. Until then, this is managed decline.
Thank you.
Next question will be Elsa. Sorry, I've not done Jackie. Apologies. I thought I had done.
No, you went first.
Yeah,
I went first. I went first on that one. Sorry, yes, I have answered that one.
No problem. She's just watching my back. Right, Elsa. I can't pronounce your surname, I'm sorry. That's it. From campaign group Mums for Lungs.
That's right. Hi, I'm Elsa. I'm an immigrant, which seems sadly relevant to mention today. I live in Levenshulme. That's where I've made my home, where I volunteer for Mums for Lung and our Streets for People, our local active travel group. I look forward to working with whoever is elected here. I'm asking my question here on behalf of my 2 children. Many areas of Gorton and Denton frequently exceeds legal limits of air pollution. If elected, what specific actions will you take to protect children's health? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question and for coming, and thank you for the work that Mums for Lungs have done. I've been, I've worked before on the mayoral campaign and committed to a lot of the pledges because I really believe in them. I know myself, when I lived in Levenshulme, one of the difficult things was how polluted the A6 was. And it's depressing that if you move to a better area, you have a longer, healthy life expectancy. That's something that now, as I've got older and wiser, I don't want to see. I think that everybody, wherever you live, should have the same standard of clean air. It's about consultation, I think, with residents to make sure that schemes are brought in, support everybody. But I think we want to see better public transport available for people, more school streets, because we know that children who arrive at school having walked or cycled are in a better frame of mind and ready to learn. And it's about creating that early on so that children have exercise and fresh air as a part of their lifestyle, so that when they become an adult it's already in them. But I know it's really difficult to encourage people to walk or cycle when our roads don't seem that safe. But yeah, a lot of it is about community engagement and an MP who will believe in the cause and work with you.
Angeliki.
I have actually delivered on this priority in Levenshulme and across the patch. This is about investing in public transport, and this is making sure that public transport is the preferred mode, or for the shorter trips, it is walking and cycling. And we've done a lot in the area around walking and cycling. I was the person that has been through various consultations with the local community about the low filter scheme, and I know that at the time it was very divisive. I know that we went again and had a consultation and we listened to what the residents said in terms of where the filters want to go. I was the person that delivered schemes outside the schools to make walking and cycling safer, and also bringing in the city the 20s Plenty scheme. This is about listening to the communities and taking action, listening to the voices and finding solutions that work with the local area and the local trips that people are making.
Charlotte.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with your work or the results of what you found. But as I said before about Denton Station, I mean, I know that's not near where you are, but definitely a supporter of people, using the train to commute where they can, which is why we need a regular service from Denton to Stockport. I can't really comment on what you're saying to me, if I'm honest. Yeah.
Honesty, politician doesn't know the answer. Matt.
So the first answer, I think, is about consultation with local groups who are already doing the work on the ground and who sometimes know the issues a lot better than politicians. But there's also a lot of tension running through the answers, bit of hypocrisy, shall we say, running through some of the answers. We can't have less traffic if we're also encouraging overpopulation. It's just impossible. So if we're going to have pressure, if we want people to be not driving around, we're going to have to also deal with the population crisis. We can't have better public transport if we're not dealing with antisocial behaviour. So if you're legalising crack cocaine, heroin and drugs like the Greens want to do, just imagine for a moment what that's going to do to antisocial behaviour. I spoke to a lady in Abbey Hay, maybe 3 days ago, pensioner. She'd love to use the bus. She'd love to go on the bus. She says, I don't really leave home anymore because public transport isn't safe for me. That is a widespread perception in this seat. Antisocial behaviour is an enormous part of this story. So we need to, what I would argue, what Reform UK argue for, is zero tolerance on antisocial behaviour.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got time. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes, well,
Jackie, apologies.
Yes, I must admit, I didn't realise that antisocial behaviour added so much to air pollution. But I know the air pollution's bad because I've been measuring it, and I realise that every single day what I'm breathing in is bad. And I have to say there's something else that hasn't been mentioned yet. I mean, I fully support moving tram trains to Denton Station and on that line because that would move a lot of traffic, off Hyde Road, which is where I live. But, the other thing we've not mentioned is They've fad for wood-burning stoves, which is undoing a lot of what the Clean Air Acts of the 1960s did to actually clear up the air in our cities. And whenever it's a cold night now, and particularly if there's a temperature inversion, it smells like everything's on fire. And that is actually adding hugely to the particulates. So as well as public transport and tram trains, we need to make sure that we look at all of the causes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try and squeeze in a couple more questions. Alan Gibson is from the Northmoor Community Centre in Longsight and a friend of Knutsford Vale.
Yes.
Hey, hello panel. Yes, I'll give a quick description of Knutsford Vale, but the question will be after that, what do the candidates plan to do to improve the green space called Knutsford Vale, which is entirely within the Gorton and Denton constituency and which is owned by Manchester Council. Knutsford Vale, it's a 20 acres in size, and it has between 3,000 and 4,000 trees or bushes on it, which were put there about 15 years ago when we got the grant of Community Forest Northwest. It lies to the north of the Matthews Lane. It's used for healthy walking and to the provision for that, and it also serves to retain water in the heavy rains in winter so it doesn't flood. It has also absorbed particulate matter, and the council admit we need all-weather paths, but they haven't found the money to do so. We have applied, for relevant funds for all-weather paths. In fact, one case we recommended to do it, but after 1 year process, we didn't get approved for it. So what do the candidates plan to do to improve the Knutsford Vale?
Angeliki, please.
Thank you very much. This is such a great question, Alan. Our patch has got some beautiful green spaces. Where I would start with this is I would go out and listen. I would go out and listen to the friends off, to the dog walkers, to the people that are using the park, to the sports teams, to whoever is using the park already, and listen to what goes well, what needs to be better, and what investment the park needs. And then I would work with Manchester City Council. As a councillor, since I was elected in 2012, all we've been doing is cut after cut. This year, due to the fair funding settlement that has come from the government, we have been asked, what do you want to do more of? So here's an idea. So to put the ideas forward for that. The other thing that I would do, I would work with the Labour Mayor, with the Labour Council, with the Labour Government in order to bring in more investment to the park and realise and turn into action what people told me.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you. I'm a member of a Friends of group locally, and we've had similar issues with a beautiful area near us. I would work with you, find out what the local residents want. I'm sure you're key to that as well. See what the different age groups want from the actual site. It sounds like an amazing place to visit. Free leisure activity is ideal. Cost of living crisis. Everybody needs somewhere to go to exercise for free. And then look at various funding streams that we could work on together. Fill in different application forms. Quite happy to support you with that and meet with local residents. That's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you, Matt.
Well, it takes us in some ways back to the previous question in the sense that the job of a Member of Parliament is to engage with constituents about issues that they feel concerned about and draw attention to them, and then essentially apply pressure on other organisations, local councils and so on, to ensure action is taken. But the question here again, as with the sinkhole, as with the green space earlier on, as with the issues around M67, as with transport, is why hasn't this stuff been done? And it's not been done because Labour have had this area for nearly a century, 100 years, and have taken it completely for granted. You look at the WhatsApp messages and you can see exactly why, because they think they are entitled to run Gorton and Denton. The question I would ask everybody in the room is, why hasn't this stuff been fixed? Because you haven't had a loud, strong champion who is from outside of the establishment, and that is actually the only thing that Reform UK can bring Gorton and Denton.
Thank you. Jackie.
Well, Knutsford Vale, seriously, congratulations to the Friends, because when I first came to Manchester, Knutsford Vale was a toxic waste dump and on fire. It burned for years. And thanks to the Friends of Knutsford Vale who managed to get it capped off. And I was with you planting some of those trees, wasn't I, Alan? Now, it is now somewhere that's lovely. Now, a few years ago, the Labour Council had the insane plan of building a school on top of it. And the fact that whenever they dug down and did a test drill, it came up as grey and bubbling and filthy and killed everything for several yards around it. Eventually, even Labour thought building a school on a toxic waste dump is a bad idea. But what you've managed to do, Alan, with the Friends of Knutsford Vale, is turn the most awful waste dump into a nature area. And that needs to be further developed and see what can be done to bring more species there. I'm happy to plant a few more trees if invited. And yes, the paths needs properly drained paths, all-weather paths, and possibly other facilities for the community. But seriously, what you have done there is amazing.
Anna.
Thank you for the question. I too applaud the efforts of friends groups who are vital in keeping places going. I'm in a friends group near me and I know it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to keep something going. I don't think overall it should always be left to volunteers. I don't think we should have just outsourced all of the things that we used to do and pay for to the free labour of working people here. I want to see a system where we bring services back to people, and that's going to be funded by a wealth tax on the super rich so that we can start to pay to have things improved. I'll also be the person who will be really firm on my commitment to the climate emergency, because we're seeing too much now, political parties pandering and denying that climate change exists, but we know that places like Knutsford Vale that still exist and are vital for flooding issues, for keeping green spaces alive, and for helping to make sure that we acknowledge the risks that we're facing as a society from climate change. I think I'm really worried and alarmed by some politicians in their complete denial of the climate crisis.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going to turn to Beth Abbott now. Now, Beth, just to declare this, works for the Manchester News, but she's also a constituent. And she's the editor of Mancunian Way, our newsletter. Over to you, Beth.
Hello. Sorry, let me just...
You might need to pass you a mic, just one sec, just so it records.
I'm just wondering if you could answer, what does it mean to you to be British, and what are the values that you are most proud of?
So, Charlotte.
Can you just repeat the question again, please?
What does it mean to be British, and what are the British values that you are most proud of?
I think that the British value I'm most proud of would be fair play. I've striven for equality. I've worked on equality issues, particularly for women and girls, for the past, for 30 years in policing, but also more specifically during the last 10 years. I think we know that women, didn't have the vote up until a number of years ago. So I think equality of women, sex-based rights is something that I'm really passionate about. So that would be the British value that I would major on. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt.
Thank you, Beth, for the question. Well, I've caused a little bit of controversy during this campaign for some of my earlier comments about what it means to be British. And what I said, to be clear, is that citizenship is not the same thing as belonging, and belonging requires more than a piece of paper. And why did I say that? Because in order to make a nation and a community, you have to have an emotional bond to that community. You have to have an obligation and a responsibility to your fellow citizens. And I said that because when Salman Abedi walked into Manchester Evening News Arena and blew up families and children, he was rejecting that emotional bond, that responsibility to his fellow citizens. I will never ever change my mind about those cases. If you are British, you have an obligation and a sense of responsibility to your fellow citizens. It's not about race, it's not about ethnicity, it's not about religion. It is about having a responsibility to your community.
Jackie.
What I'm most proud of being British is our sense of decency and tolerance, and the fact that many people of many different origins can rub along together, different faiths, work together, play together, talk to each other, wishing my neighbours Ramadan Mubarak when it happens next week, and they wish me a Merry Christmas. It's about being together and shared community. It's about the things that bind us. That's what makes me proud to be British, and that's what I think we are. We're better than this dystopian view that's being promoted elsewhere on this platform. We've got a good community, and we need to build on that.
Thank you. Hannah.
Thank you. I could talk about this for absolutely ages, but I won't, because it means a lot to me. I think being British means chipping in and mucking along and being part of a community that looks after each other. I know that whether you've lived in Greater Manchester for all your life like I have, or whether you came here yesterday, if you're part of our community and you're mucking in, you're one of us. I don't believe that we should start demonising people who are immigrants or from an immigrant background. We're seeing these real splits forming in society, which really worries me, and it's pushed by divisive politicians. And I will say, after the Manchester Arena terror attacks, like a lot of us who lived here in this city, who were absolutely appalled by what happened, what we saw in the days and weeks and months and years after, for those of us that were here and experienced that, was a coming together. Whether we're from a different background, a different religion, if we cared about each other, we cared about each other. And that is what being British means to me.
Angeliki.
To me?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So to me, being British means that you have got to be proud. You have got to be proud of your community. You got to be proud of the diversity. You got to be proud that the British are compassionate. You got to be proud that the British have got common decency. You got to be proud that we're standing shoulder to shoulder. You got to be proud because we like fairness, and we got to be proud because we can see that we've got a responsibility to our country and to lead the world.
Thank you. I'm going to come to Rob Parsons, who's a local democracy editor, who will ask the penultimate question.
Thank you, Sarah. So, I've been out and about in the constituency as well, and a few people have brought up Andy Burnham, particularly the row over his candidacy. And I'm just interested, if you were to get the job of MP, how would you work with the Greater Manchester Mayor to benefit the residents of Gorton and Denton constituency?
Matt.
Well, very closely, I hope. Andy Burnham has been an outspoken champion for Manchester as in terms of his politics, and I would want to be an outspoken champion for Gorton and Denton. I have very, very strong roots here, like Andy Burnham, like everyone on this panel, contrary to what you've heard during this campaign, or indeed contrary to what the Labour Party implied in their opening video of this campaign, where they sought to imply I'd said something negative about Manchester when I'd actually said something negative about the Tory conference in Manchester. The party that lectures us about misinformation was deliberately misinforming the local voters. So I would work very closely with Andy Burnham, because I think fundamentally that is actually how action gets done in a devolved political system like ours. And I would like to think we'd put party politics to one side and think, actually, what is best for this area that means so much to both of us? My father's side of the family are all from Salford. I went to Salford Uni. I worked for Manchester University. I lived in Castlefield. Manchester is a major part of my story.
Jackie.
Well, Andy Burnham, or whoever is in the mayor's seat, actually has to work with people of all political parties. For starters, the cabinet is made up of the leaders of the 10 Greater Manchester boroughs, and at least one of those is Liberal Democrat. So I would hope that Andy Burnham and whoever else is mayor will be able to work with all parties. The fact is, when it comes to working, I've worked many times on campaigns and other things with people from other parties. The issue is, make sure we know what we're trying to achieve and work together to achieve it. It's not about party politics, it's about common goals and making sure that things are best for Gorton and Denton. And given the work going on in public transport, that'll be one of the first things to do, because this parliamentary two trains a week from Denton and Reddish South and the others in the area isn't good enough. Let's have the tram trains. Let's actually bring East Manchester and Denton onto the tram network.
Thank you. Hannah.
Thank you for the question. So this is where I'm really clear that having yet another Labour MP in this Greater Manchester region won't change anything. We know that that's just a drop in the ocean, and I'm really proud to say that the only difference we will make is by having the first Green MP in the North who will hold Andy Burnham to account. I demonstrated that 2 years ago during the mayoral campaign. We sat literally here, to anyone that remembered it. Then I'd come from a day doing a work as a plumber. I've just come from plastering at college today, and I know that working hard in whatever we do, but working hard as politicians is absolutely vital. And I saw myself when we've been asked questions, I could hold him to account on stuff, and he had to listen. We had to work together. We found common ground, but I was holding him to account. And we know that we can only do that by having a Green MP.
Thank you. Angeliki.
Thank you. I've worked with Andy Burnham through the years. I've worked with him on bringing forward the Employment Charter. I worked with him on the Bean Network. I worked with him on the Co-op Commission. And these are just some of the examples where we work together. But I have challenged Andy Burnham as well. I have challenged him in terms of speeding up the delivery of bus devolution and making sure that a bus service that my residents in Whalley Range want reinstated must be reinstated. I still challenge him on that. I challenge him on how the buses are performing in my ward. I will be checking and challenging Andy Burnham, and together we will be delivering more for the residents of Gorton and Denton.
Okay, thank you. You can relax. That's the end of the serious questions, but the last one is my... Oh, sorry, Charlotte.
That's okay. That's fine.
Apologies.
No, it's absolutely fine. So yeah, Andy Burnham is, I've known him for a number of years. I've obviously I was a police officer for 30 years and he's over policing. And I've also been to his question times where I've challenged him about things that have been important to me as a resident. For example, strip searching of women in custody by biological males. So I'm quite happy to bring issues up with the mayor, even though we would be from different parties if I were to win the election. But I also think he's got some good ideas around Manchester as well. But I can work across different boundaries with different groups of people. I've got a proven track record of doing that in terms of tackling crime and antisocial behaviour, working across different agencies and bringing people together in a strong team to tackle issues. Thank you.
Okay, now you can relax. But I have got one final question for you. Obviously, the Gallagher brothers were brought up in Burnage, so I'd just quite like to know what your favourite Oasis song is. Jackie?
Definitely maybe.
Hannah?
Do I go controversial and say I could reel off some Stone Roses songs that I prefer? I'm going to be honest and say, yeah, I'm not gonna pick an Oasis song.
Okay.
I tend to go. I go Stone Roses if I'm asked to pick between the two.
Okay. Angeliki?
It's going to have to be Supersonic.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Definitely maybe.
Matt?
Well, definitely maybe was the first album I ever bought. Goodness me, Angeliki, we have something in common. Supersonic was also one of my favourites. So look at the hustings bringing everybody together. Maybe at the end of the campaign, cigarettes and alcohol. Who knows?
Thanks very much. Okay, so we'll just move to closing statements now, and we'll start with Angeliki. We'll work this way.
Okay, thank you very much. You heard a lot about finger pointing and accusations on the Labour's track records, specifically Manchester and Greater Manchester. But let's not forget that this is not by chance that this city is the best city in the UK. Graduate retention when I came back in 1995 was abysmal. Everybody who came to Manchester to study, they didn't come willy-nilly and all of that. They went back to London for a job. Graduate retention now is 55%, and it is due to a Labour council. Anyways, so let's be honest here. Someone will tell you that Britain is broken and only anger can fix it. Others will tell you in this table that they're surging here and they will wave. Well, they haven't waved around charts, but they have posted misleading charts through people's doorsteps. They can't win here, and this election is a choice. Do we want division, or do we someone that has worked, that has delivered in this community? And this is me. I am ready. I believe in the city.
Thank you.
And I'm ready to go.
Hannah?
Thank you. Yeah, we're not a poor country. We're not a poor city. No matter what anybody tells you, there is money here. There's absolutely no reason on earth that we should have a city region where people are sleeping in doorways, where veterans who come back from giving their lives to serve for our country are not treated with the respect that they deserve, and where people can't access the mental health services that they need. We're not a poor country. We're just not fixing the things, and we're not prioritising people. Instead, we've got decades of political parties who are answerable to the people who donate money to them. I will be different. I will work for you. And I will also say my plan is firm. I plan to open the doors of Parliament so that working people like us who keep the country going can have a say at the table and make an impact on the decisions that are being made so that we don't keep getting trampled on by the elite and the establishment.
Thank you. Jackie?
Well, I love my home. I love the area I live in. It's not the dystopia that's been portrayed sometimes, the crime-ridden dystopia. It's my home. It's a good, vibrant, diverse set of communities with people who get along together and people who work together and do wonderful things, such as turning the toxic waste dump at Knutsford Vale into a nature area. This is my home. It's been my home for a long time. And my priorities will always be Gorton and Denton. As a councillor, I always try to work to bring people together, working with tenants and residents and friends groups to make our area better. That's what I want. I want the area that I live in to be better for all of the people living in it. It's my home. It's your home as well. Let's make it right.
Thank you. Matt?
I think Lisa Nandy said it best herself today when she said the Labour Party is talking too much about itself and it's ignoring the country, and that's what the people of Gorton and Denton know all too well. The Labour Party is talking about how to save the Labour Party, the Greens are talking too much about Gaza and how to legalise drugs, which would be a nightmare for Gorton and Denton, and we are the only political party, I'm the only candidate that is unequivocally, unashamedly, unambiguously saying we need to put the people of Gorton and Denton where they belong, which is first. There is nothing more divisive than how the Labour Party has treated people in this area, forcing high taxes on them, mass migration, HMOs, and then laughing about them in WhatsApp groups. That's not acceptable to me, and it shouldn't be acceptable to the people of Gorton and Denton. Vote Reform UK, get Starmer out, put Gorton and Denton first.
Thank you. Charlotte?
Thank you. I've served the public for 30 years. I've got a proven track record in solving really tricky antisocial behaviour and crime. I speak up when something's not right, even though it, without any thought of how that's going to impact on me personally. I know how to bring a team together to tackle really difficult issues and the issues that matter to the residents of Gorton and Denton. And with Kemi as the leader of the Conservatives, we've got a plan to deliver a stronger economy and stronger borders. I'm from Manchester. I live in Manchester, and I'll fight to improve the lives of all residents in Gorton and Manchester if selected.
Thank you very much. And that brings the hustings to a close. Thanks very much to all the candidates for answering all the questions really well. Thank you. And also thanks to the audience, the voters. Really appreciate your time. There is plenty of food and drink next door, so go and have a much needed brew. Thanks very much. And this will all be online sometime later today. You'll get, so if you want to watch it back, it will be on YouTube and Facebook, and there'll be some coverage across the MEN. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.